Hello, welcome back to another video. Now, I am going to discuss about ink analysis. Before that, I am Raniel A. Sarmiento from 3CR-A1-11. Okay, let's start. First slide, lesson objectives. Identify the different properties of ink and explain the importance of ink analysis in forensic science. Second slide, describe the nature, source, and purpose of ink. First, nature of ink. Ink is a gel, sol, or solution that contain at least one colorant such as a dye or pigment and is used to color a surface to provide an image, text, or design. Example, thicker inks, ink paste form are used extensively in letter press and lithographic printing. Second, source of ink. Ink made with color usually include the following ingredients: petroleum, distillate solvent, linseed oil, some form of organic pigments, and soybean oil and organic pigment are not commonly used. Third, the purpose of ink. Ink is a gel, sol, or solution that contain at least one colorant such as a dye or pigment, and it's used to color a surface to produce an image, text, or design, used to drawing or writing with a pen, brush, reed, pen, or quill. Okay, next slide. Okay, third slide, describe the three basic group of ink properties. Opacity, describe how opaque or transparent an ink is, or to what degree of ink allows or prohibits the transmission of light through it, and how well the background of which the ink has been printed can be seen. Some ink are required to be opaque, some are required to be transparent. Another important property is the permanence of the ink pigment, or the extent to which the ink will retain its color, strength, and brightness with time upon the exposure to light. A pigment resistance to chemicals is particular how well it will retain its permanence or resist bleeding in the presence of acid, alkalis, or other substance. Another important consideration, properties will determine on what types of material an ink can be used. A similar property is the ink wettability, of the ability of an ink to refrain from bleeding when exposed to water. Next is structural property of ink. It is the length which is related to its consistency and describe the ability of an ink to form long stringly filaments. Ink that are long have increased flow characteristic and form long threads of ink when pulled. Ink that are short flow very poorly and among kind of battery consistency. Excessively long and excessively short ink are undesirable, and ink are undesirable. An ink tack is measure of how sticky an ink is, or the force required to split to ink film between the plate and blanket and the substrate. Although highly tacky ink is required for many printing applications, an ink tack should not exceed the paper surface strength, or tearing can result. Next is drying properties. It is the means by which the object is removed from the pigment, allowing the pigment to harden the solidify on the surface of the substrate. Ink dry by oxidation, absorption, polymerization, evaporation, precipitation, or combination thereof. The suitability of ink drying mechanism with a particular substrate and printing process is important in preventing problems such as ink strike through, ink off, and ink choking. Fourth slide, describe the method used in ink analysis. Ink analysis may be an important part of investigation of question documents, including port check, wills, or altered record. Although all blue or black ink may look the same, there can be some important difference in their chemical composition. This can be revealed by laboratory analysis, and the result can help assess whether there have been a tradition or alternation to a document. Analysis of document under the microscope can be informative as a first step. The investigator may be able to see slight charge in rich color not visible to a naked eye that could be indicative the alternation, or there may be suggestion of obliteration and overwriting. The ink itself may be analyzed by non-destructive or destructive testing, depending on whether the sample needs to be taken from the document. A process that would be altered, it is preferable to try the non-destructive approach first, so that the document is left at first in microspectrophotometry. This involves scanning the ink with ultraviolet or infrared light to record its spectrum, that is the wavelength of light is absorbed. Some ink fluorescence or emit light on exposure to ultraviolet, while others disappear. Put simply, that is a way of discovering the trace color of the ink. The main method of destructive testing of ink is known as the thin layer chromatography. Of tiny sample of the ink paper is punctured out using a thin hollow Riedler or hypodermic syringe is ideal. The sample is placed in test tube with a solvent that dissolve the ink. Another technique called high performance liquid chromatography, which can be used as an alternative tactic. It's involved injecting the ink sample onto a long thin metal column that is then washed over with a mixture of solvent, carrying the ink components one at any time to electronic detector between them. The non-destructive and destructive methods of analysis can identify more than 90% of ballpoint per ink. Okay, next. Fifth slide describe the importance of ink analysis in criminal investigation. The importance of ink analysis in criminal investigation has been noted in case of obliteration for differentiating in ink on basis of its chemical composition. Further, the source and also the age of ink, which ultimately gives the approximate age of document, providing leads and clues in investigation process. Okay, that's the end of my video. Don't forget to subscribe my channel and hit the notification bell so you can always updated to my video. Okay, bye!